The morning started like any other Tuesday at NORAD's Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Martinez sipped his coffee while watching the endless stream of data flowing across his screens. Satellites tracked space debris, monitored weather patterns, and kept watch for any unusual activity in the solar system. For 15 years, Jake had performed this duty without anything more exciting than a stray asteroid or solar flare. That changed at 09:47 Mountain Time. The deep space sensors began picking up something massive moving toward Earth. At first, Jake thought it was a computer error. The readings showed thousands of objects, each one the size of a football stadium, traveling faster than anything humans had ever built. He ran the diagnostics twice, then called his supervisor. "Sir, you need to see this," Jake said, his voice tight with concern. Colonel Amy Roberts hurried over to Jake's station. She had been monitoring space for 20 years and had never seen anything like the data streaming across the screens. The objects were decelerating as they approached the outer edge of the solar system, which meant they were controlled, intelligent, and heading directly for Earth. "How many?" Amy asked, though she already feared the answer. "Computer estimates 50,000 individual craft, sir. They'll reach Earth orbit in 6 hours. Amy felt her stomach drop. She immediately picked up her secure phone and called the Pentagon. Within minutes, the call was transferred to Defense Secretary Tom Bradley, who was having lunch with President Lisa Murphy in the White House. The president listened in silence as Tom explained the situation. 50,000 unknown spacecraft approaching Earth. No communication attempts from the visitors, no indication of peaceful intentions. The largest military force in human history wouldn't even be a fraction of what was heading toward their planet. "How long do we have?" "President," Murphy asked. 6 hours, maybe less if they accelerate again." President Murphy closed her eyes for a moment. In 6 hours, everything could change forever. She opened her eyes and made the hardest decision of her presidency. "Send the message to all world leaders. Emergency session in 2 hours. Tell them, we're facing a possible invasion." Across the globe, world leaders received the most terrifying message in human history. The Chinese premier was pulled from a meeting with trade ministers. The Russian president was woken from his afternoon nap. The British prime minister was rushed from parliament to a secure bunker. Every major government on Earth went into emergency protocols. Meanwhile, the approaching fleet continued its steady advance toward Earth. Admiral Zexkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conquest of Worlds, reviewing the tactical data on humanity's home planet. His purple skin glistened under the ship's artificial lights, and his forearms moved gracefully as he manipulated the holographic displays. Earth looked exactly like every other primitive world he had conquered. One small moon, basic industrial development, no visible space defenses. The inhabitants had barely managed to put a few simple satellites in orbit. They still used chemical rockets to reach space, the same technology his own people had abandoned 1,000 years ago. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the planet shows standard pre-interstellar civilization markers, chemical propulsion, primitive nuclear power, basic electromagnetic communications. No sign of advanced weapons or shielding technology." Zexkar nodded with satisfaction. The Vorthan Empire had conquered 347 worlds in the past millennium. Each conquest followed the same pattern: arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, crush any resistance, enslave the survivors. Primitive species always folded quickly when faced with superior technology. "Time to orbital position?" Zexkar asked. 4 hours, Admiral." "Excellent. Prepare the standard surrender broadcast. Make sure it's translated into their dominant languages." Back on Earth, President Murphy sat in the Situation Room with her top advisors. The massive conference table was surrounded by screens showing the approaching alien fleet. Every few minutes, the estimated arrival time clicked down another minute. General Kevin Brooks, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, presented humanity's options. They weren't good. Earth's combined military forces possessed about 12,000 aircraft, 300 naval vessels capable of missile strikes, and enough nuclear weapons to destroy the planet several times over. Against 50,000 alien spacecraft with unknown capabilities, the odds were impossible. "What about our space assets?" President Murphy asked. The International Space Station has 6 crew members. We have maybe 24 active satellites, with any kind of defensive capability. Our newest fighter jets can barely reach the edge of space for a few minutes. Dr. Elizabeth Kane, the President's science advisor, had been quietly studying the sensor data from NORAD. She looked up from her tablet with a puzzled expression. Madam President, there's something strange about these ships. Based on their heat, signatures, and energy output, they're using fusion drives. Basic fusion technology, not much more advanced than what we developed 10 years ago. What does that mean? The President asked. It means they're not as advanced as we feared. Their ships are large, but they're using technology we understand. If they were truly superior, they'd be using more exotic propulsion methods. Tom Bradley leaned forward. Are you saying we might have a chance? I'm saying we shouldn't assume. They're invincible just because they have more ships. Around the world, people looked up at the sky with growing fear. News broadcasts showed the alien fleet as distant points of light, growing brighter by the hour. In New York, traffic jams filled every street as people tried to flee the city. In London, millions crowded into subway tunnels. In Tokyo, ancient temples overflowed with people praying for salvation. But in secure military facilities around the globe, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Phone calls were made to highly classified numbers. Dormant systems powered up for the IA. First time in years. Deep underground bunkers activated equipment that officially didn't exist. Colonel Ryan Davis sat in his Pentagon office, staring at a red phone that hadn't rung in 5 years. When it finally did ring, he answered on the first tone. Project Prometheus is authorized, the voice said simply, then hung up. Ryan smiled for the first time that day. The aliens had made their first mistake by coming to Earth. They were about to make their last mistake by underestimating humanity. As the alien fleet entered the outer solar system, Admiral Zexkar prepared his victory speech. In a few hours, Earth would join the long list of worlds that had fallen before the Vorthon Empire's might. He had no idea that he was flying his entire fleet into the greatest military trap in galactic history. The alien fleet arrived exactly when predicted. Captain Steve Johnson floated in the International Space Station's observation deck, watching through the reinforced windows as thousands of dark shapes blotted out the stars. Each ship was massive, easily 10 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish swimming through the void. Control, this is ISS, Steve spoke into his radio. Visual confirmation of the fleet. They're bigger than we thought, a lot bigger. The response crackled back immediately. Copy that, ISS. Maintain observation and report any changes. Steve had been an astronaut for 12 years. He had seen Earth from space countless times, watched meteors burn up in the atmosphere, and marveled at the beauty of his home planet. Now he was watching what might be humanity's final hours unfold in the darkness above. The alien ships took up positions around Earth like a net made of steel and fire. They maintained a perfect sphere formation, with Earth trapped in the center. Steve counted at least 100 ships visible from his position, and he knew there were hundreds more on the other side of the planet. Admiral Zexkar stood on his command bridge, satisfied with the deployment. His fleet had Earth completely surrounded. No ship could escape. No signal could get out without his permission. It was a standard blockade formation that had worked on every world the Vorthon Empire had ever conquered. Begin the surrender broadcast, Zexkar ordered. His communications officer, a thin Vorthon with pale blue skin, activated the transmission array. The message would be sent on all frequencies that the primitive humans used for their communications. Radio, television, internet, everything would carry the same demand. On Earth, every screen suddenly went dark. In homes, offices, shopping centers, and military bases around the world, the normal programming vanished. For 10 seconds, there was only silence and black screens. Then a face appeared. Admiral Zexkar's image filled every television, computer, monitor, and phone screen on Earth. His purple skin and 4 arms made it clear that this was not human. When he spoke, his voice was translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. People of Earth, I am Admiral Zexkar of the Vorthon Empire. Your world is now surrounded by our fleet. You have 1 hour to surrender completely and unconditionally. If you comply, you will be allowed to serve the Empire as workers. If you resist, your civilization will be destroyed and your planet will be stripped of all useful resources. The message continued for several minutes, explaining the terms of surrender. All military forces must stand down. All world leaders must present themselves for processing. All advanced technology must be turned over to Vorthan control. Humanity would become a servant species, working for the glory of the Empire. When the message ended, normal broadcasts resumed, but the damage was done. Across Earth, panic spread like wildfire. In major cities, riots broke out as people fought to escape. Highways became parking lots as millions tried to flee to rural areas. Emergency services were overwhelmed with calls they couldn't answer. At MIT, Dr. Elizabeth Kane worked frantically in her laboratory. She had been analyzing the alien ships ever since they appeared, using every telescope and sensor she could access. What she found confused her more than it frightened her. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered, staring at her computer screens. Her research assistant, a graduate student named Bobby Chen, looked over her shoulder. "What doesn't make sense, Professor?" "Their technology. Look at these energy readings. Their ships are using fusion reactors, but they're not even very efficient ones. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based, probably around 10,000 degrees. Their shields show standard electromagnetic field patterns." "Is that bad?" Elizabeth shook her head slowly. "Bobby, we developed better fusion technology 5 years ago. Our experimental plasma weapons run at 15,000 degrees. And their shields. We cracked that type of shielding in our computer simulations 2 years ago." Bobby stared at her. "Are you saying they're not as advanced as they look?" "I'm saying a civilization that can build ships this size should have much better technology. It's like seeing someone drive a mansion-sized car that still runs on a lawnmower engine." While Elizabeth worked to understand the alien technology, governments around the world struggled to respond to the invasion. Most world leaders wanted to surrender immediately. The alien fleet was simply too large, too powerful, too overwhelming for humanity to resist. But in secure military facilities, different conversations were taking place. Colonel Ryan Davis sat in a Pentagon briefing room with 12 other officers. None of them wore name tags. None of them officially existed in any military database. "Gentlemen, ladies," Ryan began, "Project Prometheus has been authorized. After 15 years of preparation, we're finally going to find out if our theories were correct." The officers around the table nodded grimly. They had spent their careers working on humanity's most classified project. Technology that violated known laws of physics. Weapons that shouldn't be possible. Ships that existed in places where space itself had been modified. "What's our status?" Ryan asked. A woman with gray hair and sharp eyes answered, 500 units ready for deployment. All systems tested and functional. Crews have been in training for 3 years. Energy sources? Quantum tap generators. Are operating at full capacity. We have enough power to run operations for 6 months without stopping. Timeline? We can be ready to reveal in 30 minutes. Full deployment in 45 minutes. Ryan looked around the table. These people had dedicated their lives to preparing for this exact moment. Humanity's survival depended on technology that most humans didn't know existed. Meanwhile, Admiral Zexakar grew impatient. The humans had been given 1 hour to surrender, and that hour was almost up. He had expected a quick response, probably within the first 15 minutes. Most species surrendered immediately when faced with Vorthan power. "Any response from the planet?" he asked his communications officer. "Nothing official, Admiral. We're detecting increased military chatter but no surrender signal." Zexkar's 4 hands clenched into fists. "Stubborn primitives. Very well. Target their major cities. Fire a warning shot at each one. When they see our power, they'll surrender quickly enough." The order went out to the fleet. Weapons charged. Across 50,000 ships, plasma cannons that could level mountains swiveled toward Earth's major population centers. The demonstration would be swift and terrifying. On the ISS, Captain Steve Johnson watched in horror as the alien ships began to glow with weapon energy. Bright points of light appeared across the hulls of the nearest vessels, like stars being born in the darkness. Control, this is ISS. The aliens are charging weapons. Repeat, weapons are hot and targeting the surface. The response from ground. Control was calm, almost relaxed. Copy that, ISS. Maintain observation. Do not be alarmed by what you're about to see. Steve frowned at the strange response. Do not be alarmed. Earth was about to be attacked by the largest fleet in human history, and ground control was telling him not to worry. Admiral Zexkar gave the final order. Fire. 50,000 plasma bolts erupted from the Vorthan fleet, each one carrying enough energy to destroy a city block. They streaked toward Earth like falling stars, ready to demonstrate the power of the Vorthan Empire. What happened next would change galactic history forever. The plasma bolts streaked toward Earth like 50,000 shooting stars. Each one carried enough energy to destroy several city blocks. Admiral Zexkar watched the display with satisfaction, knowing that this demonstration of power would force the humans to surrender within minutes. The bolts reached Earth's atmosphere and simply vanished. Zexkar blinked his 4 eyes in confusion. His tactical officer stared at his instruments in disbelief. The weapons had fired correctly. The energy readings showed full power, but every single plasma bolt had disappeared just as it touched Earth's upper atmosphere. What happened? Zexkar demanded. Unknown, Admiral. All weapons fired successfully, but there's no impact signature on the planet's surface. It's as if they never reached the target. On Earth, Commander Lisa Turner sat in a control room buried 3 miles beneath the Nevada desert. She watched the tactical display show 50,000 incoming plasma bolts, then watched them disappear as they hit humanity's first line of defense. Quantum displacement barriers holding steady, her technical officer reported. All incoming. Energy weapons successfully phased into parallel dimension 7. No damage to Earth's surface. Lisa nodded calmly. Humanity had been working on dimensional technology for 8 years. The quantum barriers around Earth could phase any energy, attack into alternate dimensions where it would harmlessly dissipate. The aliens had just fired their best shot, and it had accomplished absolutely nothing. Sir, another officer called out, we're receiving orders from General Brooks. Project Prometheus is fully authorized. All units are to reveal and engage. Lisa smiled. She had been waiting for this moment her entire career. Send the signal. Phase out the fleet. Across the solar system, reality began to shift. In spaces where nothing had existed moments before, massive ships began to appear. They didn't fly into position like normal spacecraft. They simply materialized, as if they had always been there but had chosen to become visible. Captain Michelle Grant stood on the bridge of the UES Dominion as her ship phased from its dimensional hiding place into normal space. Around her, 499 other human vessels did the same. Each ship was sleek and dark, built with technology that bent the laws of physics. All ships reporting ready, Captain, her communications officer announced. Excellent. Signal the fleet. Begin standard intimidation formation. The human ships moved with impossible grace. They didn't use traditional engines that pushed against space. Instead, they manipulated gravity and space-time itself, sliding through the void like knives cutting through water. They arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns around the Vorthan fleet. Admiral Zexkar watched in growing horror as human ships appeared from nowhere. His sensors hadn't detected them. His long-range scouts hadn't reported them. One moment space was empty. The next moment it was filled with sleek, dangerous-looking vessels that moved in ways that violated everything he knew about space travel. How many? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 500 ships, Admiral. They're surrounding our formation. 500? Zexkar couldn't believe it. His intelligence reports had indicated that humans barely had any space technology at all. They were supposed to be a primitive species with chemical rockets and basic satellites. Where had 500 advanced warships come from? Admiral, his science officer reported. I'm reading impossible energy signatures from their ships. They appear to be using technology that manipulates fundamental forces of the universe. Dr. Elizabeth Kane watched from her MIT laboratory as the human fleet revealed itself. The energy readings from the new ships made her earlier analysis of alien technology look even more outdated. The human vessels were operating on principles that her most advanced theories could barely explain. "Bobby, are you seeing this?" she called to her assistant. "Professor, those are our ships, right? Please tell me those are our ships." "They're human-built, but I had no idea we had technology like this. These ships are using controlled manipulation of space-time, gravity negation, and what looks like quantum field generators." On the ISS, Captain Steve Johnson stared in amazement at the human fleet that had appeared around Earth. The ships moved like living things, flowing through space with perfect coordination. They made the alien vessels look clumsy and primitive. By comparison, "Control, this is ISS. Are those our ships? Please confirm those are friendly forces." "Confirmed, ISS. Those are United Earth ships. Stand by for demonstration of capabilities." President Lisa Murphy sat in the White House Situation Room, watching the tactical display with amazement. She had authorized Project Prometheus based on classified reports, but she had never seen the actual ships in action. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "General Brooks," she said, "I want to know exactly what we're about to do to those aliens." General Kevin Brooks consulted his tablet. "Madam President, our ships are equipped with technology that the aliens cannot understand or defend against. We're going to demonstrate why attacking Earth was the worst mistake their empire ever made." Admiral Zexkar tried to maintain control as his fleet found itself completely surrounded. The human ships were smaller than his vessels, but they moved with a precision and speed that his own fleet couldn't match. Worse, his sensors couldn't get clear readings on their capabilities. "Open communications with the human fleet," he ordered. "Sir, they're already transmitting to us." The main screen on Zexkar's bridge activated, showing the face of a human female. Captain Michelle Grant looked directly at the alien admiral with calm, confident eyes. "Admiral Zexkar of the Vorthon Empire," she said, her voice carrying clearly across space. "I am Captain Grant of the United Earth Space Force. You have threatened our world and demanded our surrender. We decline." Zexkar's 4 hands gripped his command chair. "Human, you are outnumbered 100 to 1. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Captain Grant smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral, you've made 2 critical errors. First, you assume that numbers matter when technology is vastly superior. Second, you assume that what you see is all we have." "What do you mean?" "I mean that our 500 ships are just the ones we decided to show you. Each of our vessels is equipped with weapons and defenses that your empire cannot comprehend. We've been watching your expansion across the galaxy for 50 years, studying your technology, preparing for this moment." Zexkar felt fear creeping into his heart. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports showed that humans are primitive. Your intelligence reports showed you what we wanted you to see. We've been hiding our true capabilities, waiting for a threat large enough to justify revealing them. Congratulations, Admiral. Your empire has provided us with that threat, Muddy." Grant continued speaking as human ships moved into attack positions around the Vorthon fleet. "You have 2 options. You can surrender your fleet and return to your empire with a message, or you can discover why human beings are the most dangerous species in this galaxy." Admiral Zexkar looked at his tactical displays. His 50,000 ships were trapped in a sphere of human vessels that moved like they controlled the laws of physics themselves. His weapons had already proven useless against Earth's defenses. His choices were surrender or destruction. But the Vorthon Empire had never surrendered to anyone. They were the conquerors, the masters of the galaxy. They did not bow to primitive species from backwater worlds. "All ships," Zexkar announced across his fleet's communication network, "attack the human vessels. Show them the power of the Vorthon Empire." Captain Grant heard the alien transmission and shook her head sadly. "Admiral, you've just made your final mistake. All human ships, you are authorized to engage. Show them what Earth is capable of." The battle that followed would be remembered across the galaxy for 1,000 years, but it wouldn't be remembered as a battle. It would be remembered as a demonstration of what happened when an entire empire made the mistake of underestimating humanity. The timer on Admiral Zexkar's bridge read 14:32:05 when the Vorthon fleet opened fire on the human ships. It would read 14:36:42 when the battle ended. 4 minutes and 37 seconds was all the time it took for humanity to destroy the largest invasion force in galactic history. Captain Michelle Grant watched the alien plasma bolts streak toward her ship and felt almost sorry for them. The UES Dominion didn't dodge the incoming fire. It didn't need to. Her ship's probability drive simply ensured that every enemy shot missed while every human shot would hit its target. "Weapons officer," Captain Grant said calmly, "you may fire when ready." The Dominion's main weapon wasn't a cannon or missile launcher. It was a device that altered the fundamental constants of physics in a small area of space. When it fired, the targeted alien ships simply stopped existing, not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased from reality as if they had never been built. 50 Vorthon ships vanished in the first second of combat. Captain Daniel Foster aboard the UES Victory took a different approach. His ship's temporal disruptor fired invisible beams that aged enemy vessels millions of years in seconds. Mighty warships that had conquered dozens of worlds suddenly became ancient scrap metal, falling apart from centuries of decay that happened in an instant. Another 100 alien ships crumbled to space dust. Commander Susan Bell commanded the UES Thunder, equipped with humanity's newest weapon system. Her gravity manipulators created miniature black holes that consumed entire squadrons of enemy vessels. The aliens fired their weapons desperately at the tiny dark spots, but their plasma bolts simply vanished into the gravitational wells, adding their energy to the growing singularities. 200 more alien ships were crushed into nothingness. Admiral Zexkar watched his fleet disappear with growing terror. His tactical displays showed ship after ship simply blinking out of existence. Some aged into scrap metal. Others were compressed into points of infinite density. Still others seemed to simply cease existing, as if the universe had forgotten they were ever there. "Return fire," he screamed at his weapons officers. "All ships, concentrate fire on individual human vessels." The Vorthon fleet tried to focus their attacks, but it was hopeless. Every plasma bolt, every particle beam, every exotic weapon in their arsenal either missed completely or had no effect at all. The human ships moved through the alien attacks like ghosts, untouchable and unstoppable. Captain Lucy Park's ship, the UES Storm, demonstrated humanity's mastery over quantum mechanics. Her quantum virus weapons infected the alien ship's own technology, turning their computers against them. Vorthon vessels began firing on each other as their systems were rewritten by human programming that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The infected ship's weapons turned on their own fleet, adding to the destruction. Commander Ben Hayes used his ship's matter conversion ray to transform enemy vessels into harmless gas clouds. Massive battleships that had taken years to build became wisps of hydrogen and helium, dissipating harmlessly into space. The aliens inside didn't even have time to scream before they became part of the cosmic background radiation. Dr. Elizabeth Kane watched the battle from her MIT laboratory, her instruments barely able to track what was happening. The human ships were using weapons that violated every law of physics she knew, yet somehow they worked perfectly. "Professor?" Bobby Chen said in amazement. "How is this possible? These weapons shouldn't exist." "Bobby, I don't think our military cares what should or shouldn't exist. They've apparently decided to make their own rules about how the universe works." On the ISS, Captain Steve Johnson had the best view of humanity's demonstration of power. He watched human ships dance between enemy attacks that never seemed to hit, while alien vessels disappeared faster than he could count them. The space around Earth, which had been filled with a threatening armada minutes ago, was rapidly becoming empty. "Control, this is ISS. The alien fleet is being destroyed faster than I can track. How many ships do we still have up here?" ISS current count shows approximately 15,000 enemy vessels remaining. Engagement will conclude in approximately 2 minutes. Steve stared at his radio. 2 minutes? The aliens had started with 50,000 ships, and humanity was going to finish them off in less than 5 minutes total? Admiral Zexkar's flagship shuddered as human weapons destroyed the ships around him. His bridge crew worked frantically, trying to find some way to fight back, but their technology was useless against enemies who had learned to rewrite the laws of reality. "Admiral," his science officer shouted over the chaos, "I'm detecting massive energy spikes from the human ships. They're preparing to fire something new." Captain Grant's voice came over the communication channel, speaking directly to the remaining Vorthan ships. "Attention, alien fleet. You are completely outmatched. Surrender now and some of you may survive to carry a message back to your empire." Zexkar's pride warred with his survival instincts. The Vorthan Empire had never surrendered, never retreated, never shown weakness to any enemy. But he was watching his entire invasion force being casually destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. "Never," he broadcast back. "The Vorthan Empire bows to no one." Captain Grant sighed. "I was afraid you'd say that. All ships, deploy the dimensional shears. End this." The remaining human vessels activated their most powerful weapons. Dimensional shears cut through the fabric of space itself, creating tears in reality that swallowed entire formations of alien ships. The weapons didn't just destroy their targets, they removed them from existence across all possible dimensions. The last organized resistance of the Vorthan fleet vanished into cracks in space-time. Commander Lisa Turner watched from her deep, underground command center as the battle reached its conclusion. Her screens showed the final count. 50,000 alien ships destroyed, 0 human casualties. Total time elapsed 4 minutes and 37 seconds. "All stations report," she commanded. "Quantum barriers still at full strength. No damage to Earth. Human fleet reports all systems nominal. No battle damage. Dimensional weapons cycling down to standby mode. Excellent. Signal the fleet to begin cleanup operations." In the wreckage of the Vorthan invasion, less than 100 alien ships remained intact. Most of these were damaged beyond repair, their crews dead or dying. Only a handful of vessels still had functioning life support and engines. Admiral Zexkar found himself in command of exactly 17 surviving ships out of the 50,000 he had brought to conquer Earth. His mighty invasion fleet, the pride of the Vorthan Empire, had been reduced to space debris in less than 5 minutes. Captain Grant's voice came over his communication system one final time. "Admiral Zexkar, you now have a choice. You can stay here and join the rest of your fleet in destruction, or you can take your surviving ships and return to your empire with a message." Zexkar looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead. His ship's weapons were destroyed. His engines were barely functional. His empire's greatest military force had been wiped out by beings who treated the laws of physics as polite suggestions. "What message?" he asked, his voice broken and defeated. "Tell your empire that Earth is under human protection now. Tell them that any species that threatens innocent worlds will face the same fate as your fleet. Tell them that humanity has taken its place as the guardian of this galaxy." Admiral Zexkar stared at the human ships that surrounded his few survivors. They had shown mercy by allowing him to live, but only so he could carry word of their terrible power back to the Vorthan Empire. "We understand," he said quietly. "We will deliver your message." The human fleet moved aside, creating a corridor through which the surviving Vorthan ships could escape. As Admiral Zexkar limped away from Earth with the remnants of his once mighty armada, he knew that everything had changed forever. The age of Vorthan dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. Admiral Zexkar's 17 surviving ships limped through space toward the Vorthan Empire's capital world. The journey that should have taken 2 weeks stretched into a month as damaged engines failed and life support systems broke down. Only 9 ships made it to the Imperial homeworld of Vorth Prime. When Zexkar's battered flagship entered orbit around the massive city world, he barely recognized his own home. Vorth Prime was covered with gleaming towers and orbital platforms, symbols of an empire that ruled over 347 conquered worlds. But now those symbols felt hollow to him. He had seen what real power looked like. Emperor Thaxmor received the survivors in his great throne room. The massive chamber could hold 1,000 beings. and today it was packed with military commanders, government officials, and representatives from conquered worlds. They had all come to hear the report from the greatest invasion fleet in Vorthon history. Admiral Zexkar, the Emperor said, his voice echoing through the chamber. You return with fewer ships than a single patrol squadron. Explain this failure. Zexkar knelt before the throne, his 4 arms trembling. Your Imperial Majesty, Earth was not what we expected. The humans, they possess technology that makes our greatest weapons look like children's toys. Murmurs rippled through the assembled crowd. The Vorthon Empire had never met a species they couldn't conquer. Their technology was the most advanced in the known galaxy. Impossible, Emperor Thaxmore declared. Our intelligence reports showed that humans barely have space travel. They use chemical rockets and primitive electronics. That is what they wanted us to believe, Your Majesty. The humans have been hiding their true capabilities for decades. They have weapons that control gravity, manipulate time, and alter the basic laws of reality itself. The Emperor's advisors whispered among themselves in disbelief. Weapons that altered reality? It sounded like impossible fantasy. Zexkar continued his report, describing how 50,000 ships had been destroyed in less than 5 minutes. He told them about human vessels that appeared from nowhere, weapons that erased ships from existence, and defenses that made the Vorthon fleet's attacks simply vanish. The humans sent me back with a message, Your Majesty. They said that Earth is now under human protection. They said that any species that threatens innocent worlds will face the same fate as our fleet. The throne room fell silent. For 1,000 years, the Vorthon Empire had delivered ultimatums to other species. Now, for the first time, they were receiving one. Emperor Thaxmore stood from his throne, his face dark with anger. One defeat does not destroy an empire. We will gather our remaining fleets, develop new weapons, and return to crush these humans. Admiral Zexkar shook his head sadly. Your Majesty, with respect, you did not see what I saw. The humans destroyed our entire invasion force as easily as we might swat insects. They have moved beyond our understanding of what is possible. While the Vorthon Empire struggled to comprehend their defeat, word of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Species that had lived in fear of Vorthon conquest for centuries suddenly dared to hope for freedom. On the planet Zetha 4, a world conquered by the Vorthons 50 years ago, rebel leader Kala Ves gathered her followers in secret caves beneath the capital city. She had just received an encrypted message from sympathizers in the Imperial fleet. Friends, she announced to the assembled rebels, the impossible has happened. The Vorthon invasion of Earth has been completely destroyed. 50,000 ships, gone in minutes. The rebels stared at her in disbelief. The largest military force in galactic history, destroyed by a single world. Who did this? Asked her lieutenant, a scarred veteran of many failed uprisings. Humans, a species no one had heard of until yesterday. They have technology that makes the Vorthon Empire look primitive. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. On conquered worlds, oppressed peoples whispered about the species that had done the impossible. In independent systems, governments debated whether to make contact with these mysterious humans. In the great trading stations that connected distant worlds, merchants carried stories of Earth's victory to every corner of space. Dr. Andrew Ross stood before the United Nations General Assembly in New York, looking out at representatives from every nation on Earth. 3 days ago, he had been a professor of xenobiology. Today, he was humanity's first Secretary of Alien Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, the events of the past week have changed everything. Humanity is no longer alone in the universe, and we are no longer hiding from galactic civilization. The assembled diplomats listened in rapt attention as Dr. Ross explained humanity's secret history. For 50 years, Earth's governments had known about the galactic community. They had watched alien civilizations rise and fall, studied their technologies, and prepared for the day when contact would be inevitable. Project Prometheus was our insurance policy. Dr. Ross continued. We knew that eventually, some aggressive empire would notice Earth and decide to conquer us. We spent decades developing defensive and offensive capabilities that would ensure our survival. President Lisa Murphy took the podium next. She had been president for only 2 years, but she would be remembered as the leader who revealed humanity's true place in the galaxy. "My fellow humans," she said, "we now face a choice. We can return to hiding, pretending to be a primitive species while the galaxy burns around us. Or we can accept our responsibility as the most technologically advanced civilization in known space." She paused, looking around the assembly hall. "I believe we have a moral obligation to use our capabilities to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Too many worlds have suffered under the boot of aggressive empires. Too many species have been enslaved or destroyed by those who mistake strength for right." The president's words were broadcast to every nation on Earth and transmitted to human colonies throughout the solar system. Humanity was being asked to become the galaxy's protector, to step out of the shadows and take responsibility for maintaining peace among the stars. Captain Helen Parker received her orders while her ship, the U.S. ambassador, waited in Earth orbit. She was to lead humanity's first official diplomatic mission to the galactic capital at Nexus Station, a massive space city that served as neutral ground for interstellar negotiations. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving transmission requests from dozens of species. Everyone wants to meet with human representatives." Helen nodded. The galaxy had taken notice of Earth's demonstration of power. Now they wanted to know what humanity intended to do with that power. The U.S. ambassador departed Earth with a simple mission: deliver humanity's message to the galactic community. Earth was no longer hiding. Humanity would take its place among the stars as a protector of freedom and peace. Any species that threatened innocent worlds would face the same fate as the Vorthon invasion fleet. Emperor Thaxmor watched from his palace as reports flooded in from across the Empire. Conquered, worlds were declaring independence. Imperial fleets were deserting rather than face potential human retaliation. The 1,000-year reign of the Vorthon Empire was crumbling in mere weeks. His advisors brought him intelligence reports about human capabilities, but each report only made the situation seem more hopeless. The humans had technology that manipulated fundamental forces of physics. They had weapons that could destroy planets, defenses that could protect entire star systems, and ships that moved through dimensions beyond normal space. "Your Majesty," his chief advisor said quietly, "perhaps it is time to consider accommodation with this new power." The emperor stared out at his capital city, watching as protests erupted in the streets below. His empire was falling apart, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. On Earth, children looked up at the night sky with new wonder. The stars were no longer distant points of light, but destinations where humans would travel as protectors and explorers. Teachers rewrote history books to include humanity's secret technological development. Scientists published papers about dimensional physics and reality manipulation that had been classified for decades. The age of hiding was over. The age of humanity had begun. Admiral Zexkar sat in his quarters on Vorth Prime, writing his final report. He had decided to retire from military service, unable to face the thought of commanding ships again after witnessing their complete inadequacy. His report would become required reading in military academies across the galaxy, a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating an unknown enemy. But more than that, it would serve as a reminder that the universe had changed forever. Somewhere among the stars, humans were building a new kind of galactic civilization, one where aggressive empires would no longer be tolerated, and where the strong would protect the weak instead of conquering them. The galaxy would never be the same again. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion hummed with quiet activity. Admiral Kethvar stood near the main viewing screen, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. The massive Zephyrian warship moved through space like a metal giant, its dark hull reflecting the distant stars. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. The Third Fleet had been patrolling this sector for 3 months now. Same routine every day. Check the outer colonies, scan for pirates, make sure the lesser species remembered their place. It was boring work for such a powerful fleet, but the Empire demanded order in all its territories. Lieutenant Commander Vexathai looked up from his sensor station. His yellow eyes glowed brighter when he was excited, and right now they were practically blazing. "Admiral, I have something strange on long-range sensors." Kethvar turned toward him. After 30 years of military service, he had learned to pay attention when his officers used the word strange. "Show me." The main screen flickered and changed. A tactical display appeared, showing the local star system. Kepler 442b hung in space like a blue marble, surrounded by its asteroid belt. Most of the rocks were worthless, but some contained rare metals that the Empire mined. There, Vexthai pointed to a small blip on the edge of the display. Single vessel, approximately frigate class. It appeared 15 minutes ago. Kethvar studied the reading. The ship was small compared to his dreadnought, maybe 1/10 the size. Identification? None, sir. The ship does not match any design in our database. No response to standard hails. Energy signature is unusual. Unusual how? Vexthai hesitated. I have never seen anything like it, Admiral. The power readings don't match any known drive system. Plasma, fusion, antimatter. Nothing fits the pattern. Kethvar felt a flicker of interest. In his long career, he had encountered dozens of different species. Most were primitive compared to the Zephyrian Empire. Some had been conquered, others had submitted peacefully. All had technology that made sense once you understood their development path. "What is it doing?" he asked. "Scanning the asteroid field. It appears to be conducting some kind of survey operation." The Admiral moved closer to the screen. The unknown ship was moving slowly through the rocks, its path methodical and careful. Whatever they were looking for, they were being thorough about it. "Options?" Kethvar asked his bridge crew. Commander Yithran, his second-in-command, spoke. "First, could be salvagers from one of the outer colonies. Some of the conquered species have been known to scavenge in remote systems. With unknown technology?" Vexthai shook his head. "Respectfully, Commander, this is not salvage equipment. This is something new." Chief Tactical Officer Morketh leaned forward at his station. "Recommend we investigate, Admiral. If this is a new species, the Empire will want to know about them. If they have advanced technology, we need to assess the threat level." Kethvar nodded slowly. The Empire had not reached its current dominance by ignoring unknowns. Every new species was either a potential subject or a potential threat. Either way, they needed to be catalogued and dealt with appropriately. Set course for the unknown vessel. All ships maintain formation. Weapons to stand by, but do not power up targeting systems. We investigate first. Across the star system, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the Silent Runner. The human ship was a fraction of the size of the Zephyrian vessels, but it was packed with the most advanced technology Earth could produce. Every surface was covered with sensors, computers, and experimental equipment. Chief Science Officer Lisa Park looked up from her station. "Jake, we have got what we came for. The Zephyrian patrol patterns are exactly what intelligence predicted. Their third fleet follows the same route every time, same timing, same ship formations." Morrison nodded. The information they had gathered would be valuable to the Colonial Defense Force. The Zephyrian Empire was planning to expand into this sector within the year. Knowing how their fleets moved would give humanity a crucial advantage when the time came. "Any signs they have detected us?" Morrison asked. Navigation Officer Ben Carter checked his instruments. "Negative. The quantum displacement field is holding steady. To their sensors, we look like just another asteroid." The Silent Runner had been hiding in the asteroid belt for 6 days, using its advanced stealth systems to avoid detection while gathering intelligence. The ship could make itself nearly invisible to most sensor types, but staying hidden required constant attention to detail. "Sir," Communications Specialist Amy Johnson spoke up from her station, "I am picking up increased chatter from the Zephyrian fleet. They sound excited about something." Morrison frowned. "Excited how?" "They have found something they were not expecting. An unknown contact." Amy paused, listening to the alien communications through her translator system. "Admiral Kethvar is ordering his entire fleet to investigate. Lisa Park quickly checked her sensor readings. Jake, they are talking about us. Our stealth system has a small electromagnetic signature. It is barely detectable, but their long-range sensors must have picked it up. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. The silent runner was designed for reconnaissance, not combat. Against a single Zephyrian ship they might have a chance. Against an entire fleet they would be destroyed in minutes. Distance to the fleet, he asked. 40 million kilometers and closing. At their current speed they will reach our position in 23 minutes. Morrison made his decision quickly. The mission was complete, and the intelligence they had gathered was too valuable to risk. All stations prepare for emergency departure. Lisa, transmit our data package to Earth immediately. If something happens to us, Command needs to know what we learned. Data package away, Lisa confirmed. Earth will receive it in 18 hours. Ben, prepare to engage quantum displacement drive. Amy, monitor Zephyrian communications. I want to know the moment they start getting serious about finding us. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had trained for the situation, but none of them had expected to face an entire Zephyrian fleet. The Silent Runner was humanity's most advanced ship, but it was still just one vessel against dozens. Quantum drive is ready, Ben reported. We can jump on your command. Morrison watched the tactical display as the Zephyrian fleet approached. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, their massive hulls bristling with weapons. Each one was larger and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet. Amy, what are they saying now? Admiral Kethavar is curious about our technology. He has never seen an energy signature like ours. They think we might be a new species. Morrison almost smiled. If only they knew how right they were. 10 minutes to contact, Ben announced. Wait until they are 5 minutes out, then execute jump. I want them to see us disappear. The minutes crawled by. On the screen, the Zephyrian ships grew larger as they approached. Morrison could see the details of their hulls now, the weapon ports and sensor arrays that made them so dangerous. 5 minutes, Ben called out. Execute jump. Take us home. Don't mind. Silent Runner shimmered and vanished, leaving behind only a faint electromagnetic trail that confused Zephyrian sensors for several seconds before fading completely. Admiral Kethavar stared at the empty space where the unknown ship had been. His tactical officer confirmed what his eyes had already told him. The vessel was gone. How? He asked. Vexathai was frantically checking his instruments. Unknown, sir. One moment it was there, the next it simply was not. I have never seen anything like it. Kethavar felt something he had not experienced in years, uncertainty. In all his campaigns he had never encountered technology that could make a ship simply disappear. The implications were troubling. Record everything, he ordered. Every sensor reading, every communication, every piece of data we collected. The Emperor will want to see this. As the Third Fleet continued its patrol, Admiral Kethavar could not shake the feeling that everything had just changed. Somewhere in the galaxy, there was a species with technology beyond Zephyrian understanding. The question was whether they were friend or foe. The unknown ship had appeared, then vanished. But Kethavar had the uncomfortable feeling that this was not the last time the Empire would encounter this mysterious new player. Admiral Kethavar could not sleep. 3 days had passed since the encounter with the unknown ship, but the mystery consumed his thoughts. He stood in his private quarters aboard the Eternal Dominion, staring out at the stars through the reinforced viewing port. The ship that had vanished without a trace haunted him. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen technology that advanced. Ships did not simply disappear from sensors. There were always traces, heat signatures, quantum disturbances, something that instruments could detect and track. But this vessel had left almost nothing behind. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. Enter, Kethavar called out. Chief, researcher Mordun stepped into the room. The elderly Zephyrian carried a datapad in his clawed hands, his expression troubled. Admiral, I have completed the preliminary analysis of our sensor data. What did you find? Mordun activated the datapad, projecting a holographic display into the air between them. The electromagnetic signature we detected is unlike anything in our database. We have records of over 400 different species and their technologies. This matches none of them. HFY studied the swirling patterns of energy shown in the display. Even to his untrained eye, the readings looked strange. Could it be a natural phenomenon, some kind of space anomaly? Negative, Admiral. The pattern shows clear signs of artificial generation. This is definitely technology, but technology based on principles we do not understand. The Admiral felt a chill run down his spine. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered most of this sector of the galaxy through superior technology and military might. The idea that another species might possess more advanced capabilities was deeply disturbing. Recommendations? He asked. We need more data. Much more. One brief encounter is not enough to determine the nature of this technology or the species that created it. HFY nodded slowly. Prepare a full report. I want everything we know sent to the capital immediately. On the distant world of Zeph Prime, Emperor Sektar received the report in his private study. The massive palace complex sprawled across several square kilometers, its black towers reaching toward the sky like claws. The Emperor sat behind a desk carved from a single piece of volcanic glass, reading the data from Admiral HFY's encounter. The more he read, the more concerned he became. High Admiral Vokhtar, the Empire's supreme military commander, stood at attention beside the desk. His battle scars told the story of dozens of campaigns against rebellious colonies and rival species. Your Imperial Majesty, what are your orders? Emperor Sektar set down the datapad and looked up at his most trusted general. This unknown species represents a potential threat to the Empire. We cannot allow advanced technology to exist outside our control. Shall I order additional fleets to the outer sectors? Yes. Triple our patrol strength in that region. I want every system searched, every asteroid belt scanned, every possible hiding place investigated. Find this ship and the species that built it. And when we find them, the Emperor's eyes glowed with cold fire. Determine their capabilities. If they can be conquered, we conquer them. If they can be negotiated with, we negotiate. If they pose a threat to the Empire. He let the sentence hang in the air. Vokhtar understood. It will be done, Your Imperial Majesty. Meanwhile, in a solar system far from Zephyrian space, the silent runner approached Earth. The blue and white planet grew larger on the viewing screen as Captain Morrison guided his ship toward the orbital defense stations that protected humanity's homeworld. Earth looked peaceful from space, but Morrison knew that appearance was deceiving. The planet bristled with defensive systems, hidden weapon platforms, and early warning sensors. Humanity had learned to be careful in a dangerous galaxy. Terran Control, this is Silent Runner requesting permission to dock. Morrison spoke into his communication system. Silent Runner, you are cleared for docking at Station 7. Admiral Stone is waiting to debrief you personally. Morrison felt a mixture of pride and worry. Personal debriefings with Admiral Stone meant their mission had been more important than he realized. It also meant the information they had gathered was probably going to lead to serious consequences. 20 minutes. Later, Morrison sat across from Admiral Karen Stone in her office high above Earth's surface. The Admiral was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd been fighting for human independence since before Morrison was born. Tell me about the encounter, she said without preamble. Morrison described everything: the Zephyrian patrol patterns, their military formations, and most importantly, how they had reacted to the Silent Runner's brief appearance. Admiral Stone listened without interruption, occasionally making notes on her personal datapad. They became obsessed with finding you, she observed when he finished. Yes, ma'am. Our stealth technology clearly caught them off guard. They have never seen anything like our quantum displacement drive. Admiral Stone nodded thoughtfully. Dr. Hayes will want to hear this. His research team has been working on improvements to the system. She activated her communication panel. Send Dr. Richard Hayes to my office immediately. While they waited, Morrison asked the question that had been bothering him since the encounter. Admiral, are we ready for what comes next? If the Zephyrians find us, if they discover Earth's location, can we defend ourselves? That depends on how much time we have to prepare, Stone replied. The intelligence you gathered suggests they will expand into this sector within the year, but now that they know an unknown species exists, they may accelerate their timeline. Dr. Hayes arrived within minutes. The head of Terran Research and Development was a thin man with wild hair and excited eyes. He practically vibrated with enthusiasm as Morrison described the quantum drive's performance. Excellent. The electromagnetic signature was minimal, you said? And the displacement effect lasted how long? Hayes fired questions rapidly, scribbling notes as Morrison answered. The important thing, Admiral Stone interrupted, is that we now know our technology works against Zephyrian sensors. They could not track the silent runner after it jumped. More than that, Hayes said excitedly, if their best sensors cannot understand our drive systems, imagine how confused they will be by our weapons technology, or our defensive systems. We have been developing these systems specifically to counter their known capabilities. Morrison felt a spark of hope. Humanity's technology was newer than the Zephyrian empires, designed from the ground up to be different and unexpected. While the aliens had focused on brute force and overwhelming firepower, humans had concentrated on stealth, mobility, and precision. What about Director Cross? Morrison asked. Does colonial intelligence need to be briefed? Admiral Stone smiled grimly. Amanda is already coordinating with the other colonies. Every human settlement within 100 light-years is being warned about possible Zephyrian expansion. We are also accelerating production of our new defensive systems. How long do we have? Morrison asked. Unknown. But based on your report, the Zephyrians are now actively searching for us. Emperor Sektar does not like unknowns in his territory. He will commit significant resources to finding whoever built that mysterious ship. Dr. Hayes looked up from his notes. That might actually work in our favor. The more ships they send to search empty space, the fewer they have available for actual conquest. Assuming they do not find us, Morrison pointed out. They will not, Hayes said confidently. Our colonies are hidden. Our ships use stealth technology they cannot detect, and our communication systems are quantum encrypted. As long as we are careful, we can remain invisible until we are ready to reveal ourselves. Admiral Stone stood up, indicating the meeting was over. Captain Morrison, your crew will receive commendations for this mission. The intelligence you gathered may have saved thousands of human lives. As Morrison left the Admiral's office, he wondered if they were being too optimistic. The Zephyrian Empire controlled hundreds of star systems and commanded fleets that could destroy planets. Humanity had perhaps 24 colonies and a few hundred advanced ships, but they also had something the Empire lacked, the advantage of surprise. For now, the Zephyrians only knew that an unknown ship had appeared and vanished. They had no idea what they were really dealing with. In the depths of space, Zephyrian fleets spread out across dozens of star systems, searching for any trace of the mysterious vessel. Asteroid belts were scanned, nebulae were explored, and remote planets were investigated. The Empire's war machine turned its attention to solving the puzzle of the unknown ship, but the harder they searched, the more resources they committed to the hunt. Ships that should have been expanding the Empire's borders were instead chasing shadows across empty space. Planetary governors complained about reduced patrol schedules. Some of the Empire's subject species began to whisper about weakness in their masters. The unknown ship had appeared for only a few minutes, then vanished without a trace. But its brief presence was already changing the balance of power in the galaxy, in ways that neither side fully understood yet. The largest military operation in Zephyrian history was underway. Across 50 star systems, hundreds of warships spread out in search patterns that covered millions of cubic kilometers of space. Admiral Kethvar commanded the primary search, fleet from the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his eyes fixed on the tactical displays that showed the positions of dozens of ships under his command. Report from the 7th Fleet, Communications Officer Yextai announced. They have completed deep scans of the Rigel system. No trace of unknown technology detected. Kethvar nodded grimly. It was the same report he had been receiving for weeks. The mysterious ship that had vanished from his sensors seemed to have disappeared completely. No electromagnetic signatures, No quantum disturbances, no evidence that it had ever existed at all. "What about the 12th Fleet?" he asked. "Still, investigating the Vega Nebula. Admiral Morkex reports that the gas clouds are interfering with their sensors, but they are conducting a grid search of every possible hiding spot." The search was becoming a nightmare of logistics and resources. Every day, dozens of ships burned, fuel and supplies while chasing shadows across empty space. The Empire's other military operations were suffering as vessels were reassigned to the investigation. Commander Yithran approached Kethvar with a data pad in his hands. "Admiral, we are receiving complaints from planetary governors. The reduced patrol schedules are causing problems in some of the outer territories." Kethvar took the pad and scrolled through the messages. Governor Sekmoon of Altair Prime reported increased pirate activity. Governor Vexron of the Centauri colonies mentioned unrest among the local population. 3 different worlds had requested additional security forces. "Send standard responses," Kethvar ordered. "Tell them the search operation has priority. When we find this unknown species, normal patrol schedules will resume." But privately, the Admiral was beginning to wonder if they would ever find their quarry. The ship had appeared for less than an hour, gathered some kind of data from the asteroid field, then vanished using technology that defied Zephyrian understanding. For all they knew, it could be anywhere in the galaxy by now. His personal communication device chimed. A priority message from Emperor Sektar himself appeared on the screen. "Admiral Kethvar, report to the capital immediately for strategic consultation." Kethvar felt his stomach tighten. Personal summons from the Emperor were never good news. 2 days later, Admiral Kethvar stood at attention in the Imperial throne room on Zeph Prime. The massive chamber was designed to intimidate, with its soaring ceiling and walls carved from black stone. Emperor Sektar sat on the crystal throne, his yellow eyes reflecting the light from dozens of torches. "Admiral," the Emperor's voice echoed through the chamber. "Explain to me why the Empire's greatest military force has spent 2 months searching empty space." Kethvar chose his words carefully. "Your Imperial Majesty, we are dealing with technology beyond our current understanding. The unknown ship used some form of instantaneous travel that leaves no traces our sensors can detect. And in 2 months of searching with hundreds of ships, you have found nothing?" "The search continues, Your Majesty. We have eliminated dozens of star systems as possibilities. Each day brings us closer to finding their point of origin." Emperor Sektar leaned forward on his throne. "Admiral, the Empire spans over 300 star systems. We rule billions of subjects and command the most powerful military force in this sector of the galaxy. Are you telling me that a single ship from an unknown species can simply disappear and avoid our entire fleet?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Kethvar knew that the wrong answer could end his career or his life. "Your Majesty, this species clearly possesses advanced technology. But advanced technology requires an industrial base, colonies, supply lines. They cannot hide forever. They have hidden for 2 months already." High Admiral Vakhtar stepped forward from his position beside the throne. "Your Imperial Majesty, perhaps we should consider that this unknown ship may not be from this region of space at all. It could have traveled here from the far reaches of the galaxy." Emperor Sektar considered this. "Explain." "If they have technology that allows instantaneous travel, they could operate from bases thousands of light years away. Our search area may be too small." The Emperor's eyes blazed brighter. "You are suggesting we expand the search to cover the entire galaxy?" "Not the entire galaxy, Your Majesty, but perhaps a much larger area than we have been investigating." Kethvar saw the trap they were walking into. "Your Imperial Majesty, expanding the search would require even more resources. We would need to recall fleets from the outer territories, reduce our expansion operations, and commit nearly every ship in the Empire to the investigation. Then that is what we will do," the Emperor declared. "This unknown species represents a potential threat to everything we have built. I will not allow them to operate in our space with impunity." Across the galaxy, in a hidden monitoring station buried deep within an asteroid in the Oort cloud of the Alpha Centauri system, Colonel Steve Martinez watched the Zephyrian search operations through a network of concealed sensors. The small facility was one of dozens that humanity had established to keep watch on their potential enemies. "Activity report, Lieutenant," Martinez said to his communications officer. Lieutenant Beth Adams looked up from her console. "The Zephyrian search fleets are expanding their operations again. They have added another 50 ships to the investigation and extended their search grid to include the Polaris sector." Martinez studied the tactical display that showed Zephyrian fleet movements across a 100 light-year radius. Red dots marked the positions of alien warships, their search patterns clearly visible as geometric grids overlaying the star map. "They are getting closer to our outer colonies," he observed. "The Kepler 438 system is only 15 light-years from their current search area." "Should we issue a warning to Governor Phillips?" Adams asked. "Already done. All colonies within 50 light-years of Zephyrian activity have been notified. They are maintaining communication silence and have their stealth systems on full power. The monitoring station's sensors detected another group of Zephyrian ships entering the search area. Martinez counted 12 heavy cruisers and a battleship, all moving in formation toward a nebula that might hide enemy vessels. "Sir," Adams said, "I am receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Stone wants a full briefing on Zephyrian search patterns." Martinez activated the quantum communication array. The message would take several hours to reach Earth, but it would be completely undetectable by Zephyrian sensors. "Tell the Admiral that the search operation is straining their resources. They have recalled ships from 3 different expansion fleets and reduced patrol schedules in over 20 star systems. Any signs they are getting closer to finding us?" "Negative. Their search methods are systematic but predictable. They are looking for conventional technology, fusion drives, antimatter reactors, plasma weapons. Our quantum displacement systems are still completely invisible to their sensors." But even as Martinez sent his report, he felt a growing sense of unease. The Zephyrian Empire was committing enormous resources to finding humanity. Sooner or later, pure chance might lead them to one of the human colonies. And when that happened, the careful game of hide-and-seek would become open warfare. On the bridge of the Silent Runner, Captain Morrison reviewed intelligence reports from across human space. His ship was currently hiding in the shadow of a gas giant in the Wolf 359 system, using its gravitational field to mask their quantum signatures while they observed Zephyrian fleet movements. "Jake," Chief Science Officer Lisa Park called from her station, "you need to see this." Morrison moved to her console where she had displayed a tactical analysis of Zephyrian search patterns. The alien fleets were moving in expanding spiral, patterns covering more and more space with each passing week. "At their current rate of expansion," Lisa explained, "they will reach the outer boundaries of our colonial space within 6 months. And our colonies? Still hidden. The stealth systems are working perfectly. But Jake, look at this." She highlighted several areas on the star map. They are not just searching randomly anymore. Someone is analyzing their search patterns and optimizing their coverage. This is becoming a scientific investigation, not just a military operation. Morrison felt a chill. Random searches could be avoided through careful planning and good luck. But a systematic scientific investigation would eventually find what it was looking for, especially with the resources the Zephyrian Empire could bring to bear. "Send a message to Admiral Stone," he ordered. "Tell her the timeline may be accelerating. The Zephyrians are getting smarter about their search methods." As the Silent Runner maintained its silent vigil, Morrison watched the alien fleets continue their relentless hunt. Somewhere in the depths of space, hundreds of Zephyrian warships were searching for any trace of the technology that had briefly appeared in their territory. They had no idea that they were not hunting a single ship or even a small exploration fleet. They were searching for an entire civilization that had been watching them for years, learning their weaknesses, and preparing for the day when hiding would no longer be possible. The unknown ship had appeared and vanished, leaving. Scout Captain Zexnil had been searching empty space for 4 months when his sensors finally detected something interesting. His light cruiser, the Void Stalker, was investigating the Tau Ceti system when the long-range scanners picked up artificial structures orbiting the 4th planet. "Captain," His sensor operator called out, "I am reading multiple artificial satellites and what appears to be a space station around the planet, designated Tau Ceti 4. Zexnil moved to the sensor display. The planet looked like a smaller version of the Zephyrian home world, with blue oceans and green continents. But what caught his attention were the obvious signs of civilization: orbital platforms, communication satellites, and the geometric patterns of cities visible on the night side of the planet. "Life signs?" he asked. "Confirmed. Large population centers across 3 continents. Energy readings suggest industrial activity and space travel capability." Zexanil felt his heart rate increase. After months of searching empty systems, they had finally found something. Ship classifications. His tactical officer studied the readings carefully. Primitive fusion drives, basic metal hull construction. Nothing that matches the unknown vessel from Admiral Kethvar's report. But still worth investigating? "Definitely, Captain. This appears to be a previously unknown colony world with a significant population." Zexnil made his decision quickly. "Send a priority message to Admiral Kethvar. Tell him we have discovered an inhabited world with space travel capability. Request instructions and backup." "Message sent, Captain." "Good. Take us closer, but maintain defensive distance. If these are the people we have been looking for, they may have more advanced weapons than their ships suggest." Governor Paul Anderson was reviewing agricultural reports in his office when the emergency alarm started blaring throughout New Denver City. The sound meant only one thing: unidentified spacecraft had entered the Tau Ceti system. Anderson rushed to the Planetary Defense Center, where Colonel Mike Roberts was coordinating the colony's response. The main display showed a single alien vessel approaching their world, its design unlike anything in the human database. "How long until it reaches orbit?" Anderson asked. 6 hours at current speed," Roberts replied. "The ship is not responding to our communication attempts." "What about our defenses?" Roberts gestured at the tactical display. "We have 12 patrol boats and 6 orbital defense platforms. Against a ship that size, we might be able to put up a fight, but we cannot win." Anderson felt sick. New Denver was home to 2.3 million people, most of them civilians who had come here to build a new life, far from Earth's crowded cities. The colony had been established only 40 years ago, and its defenses were designed to handle pirates and minor threats, not alien warships. "Send a distress signal to Earth immediately," Anderson ordered. "Emergency priority. Tell them we have made contact with an alien species and need immediate assistance." "Sir," the communications officer spoke up, "at maximum transmission power, Earth will not receive our message for 18 hours. Even if they send help immediately, the fastest ships would take weeks to reach us." Anderson closed his eyes. New Denver was on its own. Admiral Kethvar received Scout Captain Zexnil's message, while his fleet was investigating an asteroid field in the Vega system. The news that one of his ships had finally found an inhabited world sent excitement through the entire fleet. "Set course for Tau Ceti immediately," Kethvar ordered. "All ships, maximum speed." Commander Yithron looked up from his navigation console. "Admiral, at maximum speed we will reach the system in 36 hours. Too long. These could be the people who built the unknown ship. If they detect our scout vessel, they might flee before we can investigate properly." "Sir," Communications Officer Yextai interrupted. "Captain Zexnil is reporting that the inhabitants appear to use primitive technology, fusion drives and projectile weapons. Nothing like the advanced systems we encountered." Kethvar frowned. "Could they be hiding their true capabilities?" "Possible, Admiral. Or this could be an unrelated species entirely. We take no chances. Send a message to Captain Zexnil. Tell him to maintain distance, but prevent any ships from leaving the system. If they try to escape, he is authorized to use force." The Admiral stared at the star chart showing their course to Tau Ceti. After months of searching empty space, they had finally found something. Whether these humans were connected to the mysterious ship or not, they represented an unknown factor in Zephyrian space. The Empire dealt with unknown factors in only one way. On Earth, the emergency session of the Colonial Defense Council lasted less than an hour. Admiral Stone sat at the head of the conference table, surrounded by the highest-ranking military officers in the Terran fleet. New Denver's distress signal confirms our worst fears, she announced. The Zephyrians have found one of our colonies. General Carl Brooks, head of Planetary Defense Forces, leaned forward. What are our options? Limited, Admiral Stone admitted. The nearest fleet units are in the Sol system. Even pushing our engines to maximum, we cannot reach Tau Ceti for 3 weeks. What about the experimental ships? Dr. Hayes asked. The vessels with quantum displacement drives? We have exactly 3 ships equipped with the new drive systems. The Silent Runner is the only one with an experienced crew. Admiral Stone activated the holographic display showing human space. New Denver appeared as a blue dot surrounded by vast empty areas where Zephyrian fleets were conducting their search operations. Captain Morrison and the Silent Runner are our only hope of reaching New Denver before the Zephyrian main fleet arrives. Director Amanda Cross spoke up from her position at the far end of the table. What can one ship do against an entire Zephyrian fleet? Unknown, Admiral Stone replied honestly. But Morrison's crew has the most experience with Zephyrian technology. If anyone can find a way to help New Denver, it is them. And if they cannot? General Brooks asked. Admiral Stone was quiet for a long moment. Then 2.3 million human civilians are about to become prisoners or casualties of the Zephyrian Empire. Captain, Morrison received the emergency orders while the Silent Runner was refueling at a hidden supply depot in the asteroid belt of the Proxima Centauri system. The message from Admiral Stone was brief and terrifying. New Denver had been discovered by Zephyrian scouts, and the Silent Runner was the only ship close enough to provide assistance. Lisa, Morrison called to his science officer. How long to reach Tau Ceti using quantum displacement? Lisa Park quickly ran the calculations. Approximately 16 hours if we push the drive to maximum power. But Jake, that will drain our quantum cores completely. We would have maybe 1 or 2 more jumps before the system needs a full recharge. And New Denver's defenses? Minimal. 12 patrol boats and some orbital platforms. Against a Zephyrian scout ship, they might survive. Against a full fleet. She did not need to finish the sentence. Morrison made his decision. Set course for Tau Ceti. Maximum displacement speed. Jake, Chief Engineer Dan Foster spoke up from his station. Are we really going to take on an entire Zephyrian fleet with 1 ship? Morrison looked around at his crew. These 12 people were among the best humanity had produced. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers who had volunteered for the most dangerous missions in human space. They had trained for this moment, even though none of them had expected it to come so soon. We are not going to fight an entire fleet, Morrison said quietly. We are going to do what we do best. Stay hidden, gather intelligence, and find a way to help those people. And if hiding is not enough? Navigation Officer Ben Carter asked. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Through the viewing port, he could see the stars that marked the boundary between human and Zephyrian space. Somewhere out there, 2.3 million humans were depending on them. Then we adapt, he said finally. We find a way to make the impossible possible. That is what humans do. The Silent Runner shimmered and vanished from normal space, beginning its desperate race toward Tau Ceti. Behind them, the main Terran fleet was already preparing to follow, but they would arrive weeks too late to affect the outcome. In the Tau Ceti system, Governor Anderson watched the alien scout ship maintain its position just outside orbital range. His communications officers had been trying to establish contact for hours, but the Zephyrian vessel remained silent. Sir, Colonel Roberts reported, our sensors are detecting multiple quantum signatures approaching the system. Large ships, moving at high speed. Anderson felt the last of his hope slip away. The scout ship had been calling for reinforcements. Soon, New Denver would face not one alien warship, but an entire fleet. Evacuation status? He asked. We have civilian transports ready to leave orbit, but that scout ship will intercept them before they can escape the system. Anderson nodded grimly. The people of New Denver were trapped, and help was still weeks away. All they could do now was wait and hope that first contact with an alien species would not end in disaster. In the depths of space, Admiral Kethvar's fleet raced toward the Tau Ceti system at maximum speed. The Admiral stood on his bridge watching the stars blur past as his ships pushed their engines to the limit. After months of searching, they had finally found something. Whether these humans were connected to the mysterious ship or not, they were about to learn that the Zephyrian Empire did not tolerate unknowns in. The silent runner dropped out of quantum displacement at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, just as Admiral Kethvar's fleet began its attack on New Denver. Captain Morrison watched in horror as Zephyrian plasma beams turned the colony's orbital defense platforms into expanding clouds of metal and fire. "Jake," Lisa Park called out from her sensor station, "they are targeting civilian evacuation ships. 3 transports destroyed, 2 more under attack." Morrison clenched his fists as he watched the one-sided battle unfold on his tactical display. 12 Zephyrian warships had surrounded the planet, their massive hulls bristling with weapons that could crack continents. The few remaining human patrol boats were putting up a brave fight, but their projectile weapons could barely scratch Zephyrian armor. "Distance to the Zephyrian fleet?" Morrison asked. 2 million kilometers and closing," Navigation Officer Ben Carter reported. "At our current stealth settings, we can get much closer before they detect us." Chief Engineer Dan Foster looked up from his console. "Jake, what exactly are we planning to do here? We have 1 ship against 12 Zephyrian warships. Our weapons might be able to damage one of their ships, but we cannot fight an entire fleet." Morrison stared at the tactical display, watching red icons representing Zephyrian ships systematically destroy everything the humans had built around Tau Ceti 4. 2.3 million people lived on that planet, and most of them were about to become prisoners of the Zephyrian Empire, unless someone did something to stop it. "Ben, take us closer to the Zephyrian flagship. Lisa, I want a full scan of their fleet composition and weapon systems. Dan, prepare all weapon systems for combat." "Jake," Lisa said quietly, "are you planning what I think you are planning?" Morrison made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "We are going to announce humanity's presence in this galaxy, and we are going to do it in a way the Zephyrian Empire will never forget." "1 ship against 12? Dan asked. "1 ship with technology they have never seen before," Morrison replied. "Lisa, open a communication channel to the Zephyrian flagship." On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Kethvar watched his fleet systematically destroy the primitive human defenses.
"The inhabitants of this world clearly possess space travel and basic fusion technology, but their weapons were pathetically weak compared to Zephyrian plasma batteries. Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission."
From an unknown source. "The signal is being broadcast on all frequencies." "Display it," Kethvar ordered. The main screen flickered, and the image of a human male appeared. He wore a uniform that Kethvar did not recognize, and his eyes held a cold determination that the Admiral found unsettling. "Zephyrian fleet," the human said in perfectly clear Zephyrian language. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran, vessel Silent Runner. You are attacking defenseless civilians. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Kethvar felt a surge of excitement. This was it, the mysterious ship they had been searching for. "Scan for the source of that transmission," he ordered. "Negative contact, Admiral. The signal appears to be coming from empty space." "Impossible. Enhanced scanners. Full spectrum analysis." But even as his crew worked frantically at their stations, Kethvar could not detect any trace of the ship that was broadcasting the message. The human captain continued speaking. "Admiral Kethvar, you have been searching for us for months. You want to know who we are, where we come from, what kind of technology we possess. I will show you." Kethvar felt a chill run down his spine. How did this human know his name? "I challenge you to single combat," Morrison continued. "Your flagship against my ship. If you win, you can continue your attack on the planet. If I win, you withdraw your fleet and leave this system." "Admiral," Commander Yithran said quietly, "this could be a trap." Kethavar studied the human face on his screen. The captain showed no fear, only grim determination. After months of searching, the mysterious ship was finally revealing itself. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. "I accept your challenge," Kethavar announced. "But when I destroy your primitive vessel, your people will surrender unconditionally." "We shall see," Morrison replied, and the transmission ended. The silent runner shimmered into visibility less than 100 kilometers from the Zephyrian flagship. Morrison had gambled that the aliens' pride would overcome their caution, and he had been right. Admiral Kethavar wanted to face the mysterious ship that had eluded him for so long. "All ships, maintain position," Kethavar broadcast to his fleet. "The Eternal Dominion will handle this alone." Morrison smiled grimly. The Zephyrian admiral had just made exactly the mistake he had hoped for. "Lisa, target their main plasma batteries. Dan, prepare quantum displacement mines." "Quantum mines." "Armed and ready," Foster reported. The battle began when the Eternal Dominion fired its massive forward plasma cannons. Beams of superheated energy that could melt through a kilometer of solid rock struck the space where the silent runner had been a microsecond before. But the human ship was no longer there. The silent runner reappeared behind the Zephyrian flagship, its advanced weapon systems already locked onto critical targets. Human plasma beams, designed specifically to penetrate Zephyrian armor, sliced through the dreadnought's rear shields like they were made of paper. "Impossible," Kethavar breathed, as damage reports flooded his bridge. His ship's rear weapons array was gone, destroyed in the first exchange of fire. The silent runner vanished again, reappearing above the Eternal Dominion. This time, Morrison targeted the ship's main engines. Another barrage of precisely aimed fire left the massive warship drifting in space, its propulsion systems crippled. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported in shock. "Our engines are offline. Main weapons are down. How are they doing this?" Kethavar had no answer. The human ship moved like nothing he had ever seen. Appearing and disappearing at will, their weapons seemed designed specifically to counter Zephyrian technology, penetrating shields and armor that should have been impenetrable. The silent runner materialized directly in front of the Eternal Dominion's bridge, so close that Morrison could see through the alien ship's viewing ports. A final message appeared on Kethavar's communication screen. "Admiral," Morrison said, "you wanted to know who we are. We are humanity. We have been watching your empire for decades, studying your technology, learning your weaknesses. This demonstration is just a small sample of what we are capable of." "How?" Kethavar managed to ask. "While your empire focused on conquest and brute force, we focused on innovation and precision. Your ships are powerful, Admiral, but they are also predictable. We designed our technology specifically to counter yours." Around the system, the rest of the Zephyrian fleet watched in stunned silence as their flagship sat dead in space, completely helpless before a single human vessel. "You have a choice," Morrison continued. "Withdraw your fleet now and report to your emperor that you have encountered a species capable of defending itself. Continue this attack and discover what happens when humanity stops hiding." Admiral Kethavar looked around his bridge at the shocked faces of his crew. His ship was crippled, his weapons were destroyed, and a vessel 1/10 the size of his flagship had done it all in less than 5 minutes. "All ships," he broadcast on the fleet frequency, "withdraw to minimum safe distance." "A wise decision," Morrison said. "Tell your emperor that humanity is not interested in conquest. We want only to be left alone. But if the Zephyrian Empire threatens our colonies or our people, you will discover that we are far more dangerous than you imagined." The silent runner vanished one final time, leaving the Zephyrian fleet alone with their crippled flagship and their shattered assumptions about galactic power. On the surface of New Denver, Governor Anderson watched the alien ships begin to withdraw. He could hardly believe what he had just witnessed. A single human ship had faced down an entire Zephyrian fleet and won. "Sir," Colonel Roberts reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the unknown human ship." Morrison's face appeared on the colony's communication screens. "Governor Anderson, this is Captain Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. New Denver is safe. The Zephyrian threat has been neutralized. Captain, Anderson managed to say. Who are you? Where did you come from? That is a long story, Governor. For now, know that humanity has more friends in the galaxy than you realized. Help is coming. As the silent runner disappeared into quantum space, heading back toward Earth with news of humanity's first victory, Admiral Kethavar sat in his damaged command chair and contemplated the impossible. The unknown ship had appeared, then vanished. But in those few minutes it had changed everything. The Zephyrian Empire was no longer the dominant force in this sector of the galaxy. Somewhere in the depths of space, a species called humanity was watching, waiting, and preparing, and the Empire would never be the same again. The message that Admiral Kethavar would soon carry back to Emperor Sektar was simple and terrifying. They had found the mysterious ship and learned the truth about its creators. The Zephyrian Empire had encountered humanity, and the Empire never stood a chance.